Hey everyone, I'm Joe and today I'm going to be doing the Ultimate Book Lovers tag. This was created by Sam, who's a fellow booktuber whose channel is called Sam's Nonsense, which I will link in the description box below. Sam is a really nice booktuber and a really good booktuber. I would highly recommend you go and check her channel out because frankly it's worth it because she does a good variety of interesting videos. She's a very heavy fantasy reader. So she's sort of like the opposite side to me. I'm science fiction with a bit of fantasy. She's fantasy and little bits of other genres thrown in. So I'd recommend her anyway. There are 16 questions to this tag. It's a little bit longer than normal, which is fine because I'm quite happy to do long videos. And without further delay, I'll get straight into talking about the book because this video will be very long if I don't. So the first question is quite simply, name your top 3 favourite books. Now I don't like saying top 3s, or at least not top 3 favourites, so instead I'm just going to say 3 extremely good books that I think are well worth reading, and those are Dune by Frank Herbert, which I've got in this edition, and I like it so much I've got it in this edition, which is one of the big hardback SF Masterworks. Dune is a science fiction classic. It is a book that I've mentioned multiple times on the channel before. I've done a review of the series, in fact, which there are 6 of by Frank Herbert. There are more books set in the world that his son wrote as well, which I'm not going to talk about now. Well, I haven't read them, so it's a bit difficult for me to talk about anyway. But they are well worth reading, and they are very interesting books. The second book that I'm going to recommend is Good Omens by T. Pratchett and Neil Gaiman. This is a very old edition of this book. It is actually I've had this book since about 8 years old. I think this was actually technically not my book originally. I inherited this from my big sister when she left home. She basically sort of let me have any book by T. Pratchett and indeed several other authors. So I kind of got a big collection of books quite quickly, which I'm obviously very grateful for. This is obviously extremely humorous. It's got some darker moments in it, but even the darker moments are tinged with a sort of wry humour, and just a fantastic book, it really is. The third book I'm going to talk about is The Martian Chronicles by Ray Bradbury. Now, the one thing I'm going to say about this book, and indeed all books by Ray Bradbury, is the writing. His writing style is beautiful. I don't normally say a writing by any author is beautiful, but by Ray Bradbury, that applies to every single one of his books. He has a way with words and a way of making evocative ideas and images in your mind of what he's trying to get across to you, and his books are just frankly phenomenal for that reason, if nothing else. And there are many other reasons to read his books, frankly, there really are. They are great. The second question is your top 3 least favourite books. Now I'm not going to say least favourite again because, as you know, favourites is an issue with me. I'm going to say 3 books that just didn't work out for me and I personally thought were awful. Although there is a theme to these books, as you will quickly come to know. I don't have physical copies of them because they're not bad. I actually got the physical books. And that is Divergent by Veronica Roth, which is a young adult science fiction book. Young adult being the primary genre, however. As you know, young adult does not work for me at all. I've read like 2 YA books in my whole life that have actually worked for me. All the others, which I haven't read loads of, but I've read several dozen at least, have been complete failures. And this is almost one of the worst. The world was laughable, the characters were terrible, and I just nothing about this book redeemed it for me, frankly. I know it's popular, but it's just one of them things that I didn't like. The second book was Infinite Jest by David Foster Wallace. This is a great big thick book, it's like that thick. I got rid of it, however. It was really dull, frankly. I read halfway through the book, which is over 300 pages, and the plot still hadn't seemed to start yet. I didn't really understand what the author was trying to achieve by the plot, by the book, or where he was trying to go with the plot line, or frankly when the plot was actually going to start, because it still seemed to be meandering around the book at 300 pages. Frankly, 300 pages of meandering around the place. Yeah, don't do that for me. It just doesn't work at all. And the third book is The Maze Runner by James Dashner, and indeed the other 2 books in the trilogy, because I actually read the whole trilogy amazingly. Despite the fact that I thought The Maze Runner was probably one of the worst books I have ever read in my entire life. it was awful. The world was so bad I almost genuinely laughed at it. It was actually terrible. The writing was awful. The continuity was broken really badly as well, which I don't normally mention the continuity of books, but it didn't seem to sort of fit together very well. And frankly, I just really didn't like this book. I'm not going to say more because I could talk all day about why I didn't like something. But anyway, that's it for now. Question 3 is a popular author that you love. And for that, I'm going to use a really obvious example and say Terry Pratchett. If you didn't know, I love Terry Pratchett really badly. The first book I ever willingly picked up as a child after I learned to read was a Terry Pratchett book, The Colour of Magic to be precise. And basically, ever since then, Terry Pratchett has been very influential in my life. When he died a few years ago now, he's one of the few times in my life where I've actually I was extremely close to tears learning on Terry Pratchett's death, because he was extremely influential for me, not just reading but as a person. The sense of humour that he wrote in his books shaped my sense of humour now. My sense of humour now is based on Terry Pratchett and the Discworld. So it's significant, really is for me. Question 4 is a popular author that you didn't love. And this again might be one that you kind of could predict if you've been watching me for a while, and that is Robin Hobb. Now Robin Hobb is very well known for the Realm of the Elderling series, which starts off with Assassin's Apprentice. However, that trilogy, although that is the only trilogy I've read, I really badly disliked, extremely badly in fact. I just found that trilogy to be the most depressing and the most pessimistic trilogy I've ever read in my entire life. Now, I don't expect happy endings for characters in books, but Hobb takes it, at least I think, in the extreme opposite direction. No character ends up well. All the characters end up either physically, emotionally, or both scarred at the end of the book, and it's just miserable the books are. And as I'm a really heavy optimist, that doesn't sit well with me, frankly. I just felt the books actually make me feel depressed, frankly, reading them. Which books should make you happy, not depressed. So yeah, they're just not for me. Just one of them things. Question 5 is an underrated book you think everyone should read. Now for that, I'm going to choose Magician by Raymond E. Forrest. This is the UK edition. In America and indeed the rest of the world, as far as I'm aware, this is actually split into 2 books, because this book is somewhat long. It's like 680-ish pages. I think the book is called Magician's Apprentice and Magician's Master, I think, when they're in their individual forms, but I only know it as Magician. This is a fantasy book. It is part of a trilogy and in part of a greater world, like Robin Hobb's Realm of the Elderling series. But like Robin Hobb, I genuinely love this book and indeed love the world that Forrest has created. It is a very interesting world, and one that I do mean to, I should really reread this and then continue on with the overall series, because there are 30 books set in this world overall. 30. I mean, that's a lot of books, and I have half of them. However, so at some point I'll buy the remaining 15 books and then read all 30 books in a row. When that will be, I'm not sure though, because yeah, that's a lot of books. Question 6 is a series you don't think you will finish. And for this, I'm actually going to choose one that might surprise people, and that is the Song of Ice and Fire series by George R.R. Martin, or A Game of Thrones, as is otherwise well known nowadays, especially due to the TV series, which I haven't watched. Now, I actually have read all the current books up until the 5th one, is it? Now, the 6th one, which is going to be released at some point this decade, presumably, I don't know. It's taken its time, as I've just sarcastically indicated. And frankly, the reason I don't think I'll ever actually finish this series is because I actually don't think this series will be finished. I honestly think that he'll probably publish this next book within the next few years. It's meant to be released next year, but it keeps getting permanently delayed. And the 7th book, which is supposedly meant to be the last book, presumably will take an incredibly long time to come out. It'll probably take more than a decade. And frankly, the books are quite depressing as well, despite the extremely long delays in being written. And I don't know. I mean, they're good, I suppose, as an idea, but they're a bit boring. Frankly, I find them. They're just you've got a habit of repeatedly saying the same thing over and over. At least I think so. So I'm not a particular fan of George R.R. Martin so far, although that's only based on these books, frankly. Question 7 is my earliest bookish memory. Now that would actually have to be a particular teacher from my primary school called Miss Thompson. She was the deputy headmistress of my primary school. She realised at age 8 I could barely read. I mean, I could read individual words, but actually reading sentences for some reason just didn't work for me. I couldn't actually read sentences, and therefore couldn't technically read. And she realised this at age 8, and she didn't like it, the fact that I couldn't read. So she took it upon herself as a personal sort of mission to enable me to read. And literally in 3 months, when I was aged about 8 and a quarter, I went from being not able to read basically to almost my current ability now, which is to be able to read incredibly fast, and I can read anything and understand anything pretty much. So I'd like to say thank you to her. Obviously she'll never see this because I have no idea where she is now. I mean, I know she's not still at the primary school, that I do know. So yeah, she was an important person for me because she literally taught me to read single-handedly. Question 8 is my favourite bookish memory. Now for this I'm going to choose a recent one because there's many, and that is when I met Caitlin and Katie in London only a few months ago in March 2017. Katie had come over from Dublin, Ireland to London on a trip with her parents for the weekend. So I met up with Katie and Caitlin, who is an English booktuber who I've met 3 times previously to that, and we just got on really well. We were able to have a really good conversation. We went in bookshops, we talked, we had lunch. It's a really nice day. Frankly, that's, in recent memory, that's the most favourite thing I've done, frankly, because it's just nice, easy, relaxed. We were just a couple of people that I actually genuinely like as people. Question 9 is your favourite genre to read, and this is really obvious, frankly, and that is science fiction. About a third of every book I own is science fiction. Might not seem like a lot when I talk about science fiction pretty much in every single video, and it seems like more than half of what I read, actually probably 3/4 of what I read is science fiction. But I actually have got less science fiction books percentage wise than you'd think, but I have got a lot in general though, so it works out. And yeah, it's science fiction anyway, obviously. Question 10 is the opposite of this, and that is your least favourite genre to read. And as I've vaguely alluded to earlier in this video, that would have to be YA or young adult. Frankly, up until about 5 years ago or so, I didn't realise young adult was an actual genre by itself. I just thought it was something that bookshops, namely Waterstones, used when you go in the store to basically get the teenagers to go over and read these young, well, at the time, sort of silly sounding books. I don't think that anymore, of course, although I don't personally like YA, but that's just a personal preference. But yeah, I didn't realise it was a genre, frankly, so, and it's never worked for me. I've tried reading YA and I keep trying every now and again, and every time I try, it's like 90% of the time it's a failure. Question 11 is one important or difficult book you've proud to have read, and that would be Moby Dick by Herman Melville. Basically, the first and the fourth quarter of this book focuses on the plot line, but the middle of the book, basically 300 pages, is essentially Herman Melville talking about the history and the way that the whaling industry works in the era that this was written, which was frankly boring as hell. God, I haven't been that bored in a book in a long time, and frankly I'm glad, because I did finish the book, I'm glad, which is why I'm mentioning it now for, because I'm pleased about it, and indeed I would reread it, but you almost want to sort of, I wish you would take out the whaling history sections, because frankly they're boring, they don't add anything to the book, and indeed they actually detract from the book, because it's irrelevant, you don't need to know it whatsoever. you want to focus on the plot line of the book? I mean, it's a work of fiction, not a history book. It seems, I don't know, it's never really worked for me, frankly. In that part of it, but the book overall does work for me. It's odd, not how this book is. Question 12 is your favourite childhood book, and this one is one that I've already mentioned a little bit earlier in the book, and that is The Colour Magic by Terry Pratchett. This is the oldest book I own, so old in fact that the pages are actually literally falling out. So I can actually read it page by page. I'm trying not to knock all the pages all over the place because that would make a terrible mess. I love this book. I learnt to read and it was the first book I read. I have read this book, this exact edition, more than 100 times over the course of my life, and I'm not exaggerating that. I know I have. I used to reread Discworld books over and over again. I used to cycle through them repeatedly, and I did this for years. I haven't actually read Discworld for years now, in fact, because I've basically got a little bit out of date with the series. I actually haven't read the last 10 Discworld novels, so at some point I will update my collection and then I'll reread the whole lot through at some point. Question 13 is your favourite book cover, and for this, actually I'm choosing one that might be a bit odd, and that is A Clockwork Orange by Anthony Burgess. I personally love this. This is by Penguin, and it just works, I think, because it's just got a clockwork and then an orange. So, I mean, it doesn't actually have to say the word orange because it is an orange. I just love it for that reason. It's extremely simple and extremely evocative of what it is. I just like it for that reason. And the next question, however, is very similar to this, and that is your least favourite cover, and that is another one by Penguin, and that is 1984. Yeah, by George Orwell. This is awful. Now, I understand what the title is meant to be, that the black there that you actually can't read. I think it's meant to be that it's kind of like redacted or it's been removed, which is obviously the point of the book. But it doesn't look right there, it just looks frankly weird. And it just looks really dull, and I really don't like this cover. I like the book, somewhat anyway. So, but I don't like it enough to actually get a different edition with a non-terrible cover though. So, you know, it just has to be a terrible covered book. Question 15 is a diverse book recommendation, and for this I'm going to choose The Female Man by Joanna Russ. This deals with gender diversity in a really interesting and unusual manner. I really enjoyed this book. I read it last year or the year before, in fact, and I really enjoyed it. And I'm not going to talk about why because I've done a video talking about this book, but it was really good and well worth reading. It really was. And the last question, 16, is why do you love to read? Now this is the only one that I think is a bit odd in a way, because it's like asking me why I like to read is like asking me why I like to eat. I mean, or why I like to do anything else. It's just, reading is part of who I am, it's part of what I am. I've always read, well, ever since I was 8 years old anyway. I learned to read late. And reading is just what I do on a day-to-day basis. I mean, I read practically every day. And I've always loved reading. I can't really say why though. It's just something that I've always done. It's part of my everyday life, frankly. So, you know, books and indeed my book collection will always be with me, which I'm very happy to say that. I really am. Anyway, with that said, that is it for the questions and indeed for this tag. I'm not going to tag anybody, but if you want to do this, then consider yourself tagged and feel free to do the tag. And also make sure, if you do, link Sam's channel when you do it as well, because generally you should always link the creator of the tag. At least that's the impression I always get. Kind of only polite but friendly to do. So that's it. If you've read any of these books or would like to read any of them, then please leave a comment. If you have any recommendations, then please leave a comment as well. I mean, that is it for this video. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you another day. Bye for now.